This is how to finish your weaving by cleaning up the back side of your weaving and taking it off of the loom. So when looking to trim and hide the tail ends of your yarn, there are a few different methods to do so. The first is by using a small crochet hook to pull the end of your yarn through the existing weaving. You can do this by placing your crochet hook up through 2 to 3 rows of your plain weave, hooking the end of the tail, and then pulling it through. Being sure not to pull too tightly as to change the direction of your weave. Then after pulling the tail through, you can trim the remaining yarn close to that loop. The second method to clean up the back of your weaving is to find 2 tails that are near each other and tie 2 tight knots to hold them together. Being sure that, especially if you're close to the side of your weave, that you do not pull too tightly but tight enough to keep the yarn in place. After tying them in 2 knots, trim the ends close to the knot. The third way to clean up the back of your weave is to simply trim your material close to the base without tying a knot. This is particularly fine if you're working with larger material like roving wool, or if you've made sure to pack your weaving down tightly. Once you've cleaned up the backside of your weave, you can flip your loom back over and you're ready to take it off. So you're going to flip your fringe up and you're just going to push up the foundational weave that you placed. This just gives us more room to work with the warp threads. Now we're going to work from left to right or right to left, whichever you prefer, working with every 2 warp threads. So I'm going to start on the left and I'm simply cutting the first 2 warp threads and then tying them in 2 to 3 secure knots. You want to be sure not to pull too tightly, otherwise it will push your weaving up the warp thread. So keep the tension similar with each knot. Again, working with just the next 2 warp threads, tying 2 to 3 secure knots, and making sure that the knot tightness is the same as the previous warp threads. Working just 2 warp threads at a time is helpful in keeping the tension of your entire weave and making sure that it is not too loose before you fully take it off the loom. Once you've tied off your warp threads, you can go ahead and trim them so that they are short, flip your fringe back over, and your weaving is ready to come off the loom. At this point, it should be loose enough that you can simply slide the loops at the top off of the notches.